Hello, Jenny Hall here for Ink on 3. Today I have a very simple and elegant Christmas card to share with you. I'm stamping with the Blessings Stamps and Dies, and I'm going to use the Flora stencil from Ink on 3. I will start out with a piece of heavyweight gray cardstock, and this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And I'm going to place a portion of the Flora stencil over one end of the cardstock. I've secured it in place with some washi tape, and now I will be using a Blending Buddy brush from Trinity Stamps together with Shark Tooth White ink from Ink on 3. This is a really intense white ink. As you can see here, it shows up really well on the cardstock. Now I'm going to do this on some gray cardstock because my card base is gray, and I want for the edges of all of the florals and the pieces in between to match the card base. First I added that white pigment ink, and then I'm going to add Trinity Teal Atelier ink with another one of the Blending Buddy brushes. And the way I'm adding it is kind of like in sweeping motions. Using a stencil that has fine lines sometimes can be a little tricky if you go in circles, so working in like a sweeping motion works out really well for me. And plus, I want the edges of the floral images to be lighter than the center of the flower, so I'm concentrating more color down in the center. Here is some Liquid Pixie Dust from Ink on 3, and after giving it a really good shake off camera, then I've applied a full dropper to my workspace, and I'm going to use a stiff paintbrush to kind of pounce on that Liquid Pixie Dust. If you have not used the pixie dust before, this is a very intensely sparkly substance, and it takes just a little bit to go a long way, and I'm being really generous with this. Now, what happens when the pixie dust mixes with the ink that's on the cardstock? It kind of moves the paper or moves the ink around on top of the paper and is mixing in with it. I'm using the pixie dust because I want to get the look of, I think they're called sugar crystalled flowers. It's like a plastic crystal that looks kind of like ice, and it goes on top of some florals. Sometimes you can get a in the floral department, you can pick up some flowers that have this really heavy coating that are so sparkly and shiny, and usually like poinsettias. And that's what the look is that I was going for on this project. So I'm going to take my scissors and just fussy cut around the outside edge of the portion of the flowers. And then I'm going to pop my card base, which is an A2 size card base, into my Missy 2.0. And I'm using Juicy Embossing ink and some Arctic White Detailed Embossing Powder, both from Ink on 3, to add a sentiment. This card, I want the sentiment to really stand out and then just be accented with these super shiny florals. And the sentiment reads, "Jesus is the reason for the season." This was the first time that I had used this particular stamp, and so it didn't really get, I forgot to take my microfiber cloth and clean it off first in order to get some good traction. So I'm using my white gel pen just to kind of fill in where I didn't get a real good connection to the paper. So here's that fussy cut piece that we're going to add at the top. And be sure to check out the shine. Look at how shiny it is. It's like it's covered in ice. So gorgeous. So I don't want to take away too much from the sentiment because I want that to be the main focus. So I'm going to add some little sequins here. These are some flat cupped sequins from Trinity Stamps. And I'm just placing them around that floral image. And they look very pearly, which matches really well with that stencil. This look can be achieved really well with a die cut image, but I like this floral stencil from Ink on 3, so that's the look I went for. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a Merry Christmas.